We're talking New York Giants offense, the running game, the passing game, the quarterback, and all things in between with former NFL receiver Mike Pritchard. That's coming up next on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. My name is Patricia Traina. Happy to have you with us. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day, or if you are watching us on YouTube, your first watch of the day. And on today's show, I am very happy to welcome in former NFL receiver Mike Pritchard, who is the lead NFL analyst over at the VSiN network. He is also a first-round pick by the Atlanta Falcons back in 1991. Pro Football Writers all-rookie team that year. Played his college ball at Colorado, was the MVP for their national championship team. Had stints with Denver and Seattle. And he, at the time, was one of the fastest players to reach 200 catches in his first 3 seasons. So quite an accomplished gentleman who knows a thing or two about playing receiver. And we're going to talk about playing receiver as it pertains to the Giants, as well as the offense of the Giants. Mike, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today.
Oh, thank you for having me so much. Excited to be with you, Patricia. Absolutely.
All right. Well, Mike, let's not waste any time. I want to get right into picking your brain about the wide receiver position. And I want to start off with a general question, if I could here. We have heard, when I say we, those of us who've never played the game before, that a quarterback can elevate a wide receiver's play and not necessarily the other way around. Can you just talk about that whole concept? And is that a myth or is that actually the truth?
No, there's facts to it. It takes a special quarterback to be able to do that. And we're talking about the elite quarterbacks, the Hall of Famers, the legendary players that can raise the level of just not the receiver position, but the running back position, the offensive line, pretty much everybody on the team. And that's why they're legends still. It's not a myth because, when you think about a quarterback, they have to have anticipation. They have to also understand your route as a player. And I was fortunate enough to play with 2 legends that way, and Warren Moon and John Elway. And I learned so much in terms of what I needed to do to be an accomplished receiver and help their job become easier, because I knew my job would be enhanced because I'm playing with the likes of John Elway and Warren Moon. So it's not a myth. It is factual. I think to really dive into it and describe it, it all involves catch radius. Like, you see the dimensions of receivers now, and the prototypical receiver, probably about 6'2", 210, very athletic, has a really nice accomplished vertical jump as well. So for a quarterback, it's more of a radius or a window that they're throwing to. And so as a receiver, if I understand that, again, it's just going to elevate my play because that guy throwing the football to me understands that concept as well.
When you look at Daniel Jones of the Giants, now nobody's putting him in the same category as a John Elway or a Warren Moon, but certainly he is, I think, taken a step forward under Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka in that offense. What do you see from him with regards to his ability to make his receivers better, or is it just not there yet?
Well, I think the type of throws that he's making, they're easier throws now. Because of their running game, because they have play action, because Daniel Jones is mobile, they're able to condense the looks for Daniel Jones, and therefore his throws are going to be easier because, dropping back and going through progression all across the field, determining coverages. I mean, that's something that I talked about with John Elway, Warren Moon, and those legendary type of quarterbacks that way. That comes easy to those guys. The Tom Brady's of today, the Aaron Rodgers of today, but for Daniel Jones, if you can create a look or create a picture for him in which, okay, I don't have any other choices but 1 or 2, and then I can use my athleticism as well if I need to make a play. That's made the game easier for Daniel Jones at this point, at this juncture of his career. I think he can still evolve, though. I think he can get to that point. But right now, Coach Dable, the whole offensive staff, they've done a really, really good job of simplifying things from a passing standpoint.
Mike, just as a follow-up there, decision making, we hear that a lot with a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Can a receiver necessarily help a quarterback with decision making, or is it just a matter of what the quarterback is seeing and just trusting in what that the receiver is running the right route and just doing what he's supposed to do?
Well, it depends on the system. Some systems you see in the National Football League, they're designed, and as a receiver, I have one specific duty and one route only. No adjustments to that route. If I have to run a post, I run a post. If I have to run a quick out, speed out, I run a speed out. But there are some offenses that allow you to adjust. So, for instance, if I have to run a post route, but yet the coverage says I can't run that post route, then do I have the ability to adjust that? And so I think from a vision standpoint and from a receiver standpoint, we got to be on the same page. And in particular, Patricia, when it's a receiver in the middle of the field, a tight end, a slot receiver, even a receiver running a crossing route in the middle of the field, it's paramount that the quarterback and that receiver is on the same page, because if one guy does something completely different, then that can lead to an interception.
When you look at today's modern offenses, the Giants, the Chiefs, the Bills, which is, obviously where the Giants have their roots in,
Mm-hmm.
how much how much more complex are the offenses? Because, it just seems to me with this Giants offense, the receiver has multiple options to run. I mean, and I'm guessing back in the day, that wasn't the case. It was just, you run a post and that's all you did, as opposed to maybe changing it off and breaking off depending on the coverage.
Right. That's a great question, because I think it depends on the personnel. Like if you have 11 personnel or 3 wide receivers out there on the field, you typically have that slot receiver. And that slot receiver has a lot of adjustments. I was fortunate to play a slot receiver position when I got into the league. We were running a run and shoot. And so I'm seeing similar concepts back from 1991 in today's game. Football doesn't really change. It evolves a little bit, but it doesn't change. I mean, we were running plays in 1991 that we saw in the 70s. And I think that's true today in terms of the concepts and what we see on Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays, certainly when we watch the NFL. But it hasn't really evolved too much. I see similar concepts, to be honest with you. And it's how you disguise it, though. Is it personnel? Is it formation? Is it motion? But we're all seeing the same things that the game has produced for decades now.
You look at the Giants offense as it's currently being run, and they're basing it on the running game. So in a way, they're kind of making themselves one-dimensional for whatever the reason. I guess maybe because, the receivers are not premier, or, which look, if they're good enough to be on a roster, then they've got to have something to bring to the game.
Sure.
But you look at what the Giants have done, and I think with the exception of 3 games this year, the 2 losses the Giants have had, and then the 1 win, it's mostly been favored in terms of the running game.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a danger for a team to continue to make itself one-dimensional? Can that be sustained, and can you still win like that?
Well, you can. But I think kind of like what we just talked about in terms of the passing game and the concepts that you've seen over decades in the National Football League. Can you dress it up and certainly disguise it to help throw the football? That's the case with the running game too now. We're seeing a return to a toughness in the National Football League, if you will. Like we've understood that the player safety aspect has been at the forefront, and maybe the game got away from being physical because of that. And I believe that to be true. But now we're into several years of teams wanting to run the football again, because you only have 2 linebackers typically on the field. In the middle of the field, you have five defensive backs. You have nickel defenses, and that's hard to throw against, really. And we see cover safeties now, where in my day we had linebackers or safeties the size of linebackers, 230 pounds, right? But I think with linebackers now about 225, 230, teams are implementing a power running game because they feel like they have edges in that regard. And in other words, you can create matchups and numbers advantages as an offense running a football, and you can still get chunk plays. running a football, and the Giants are leading that, really, if you look at it. And Saquon Barkley has been incredible, but it's absolutely sustainable. If you the evolution of the season, like right now, teams are going to want to run the football more and more because of weather. And then also teams are going to try to take away things in a passing game as we get closer and closer to the playoffs. So it's absolutely sustainable. In fact, the Giants lead the way because so many teams are trying to catch up and do what the Giants have accomplished already in the running game.
What's been the biggest change that you've seen with the Giants running game, besides obviously having a healthy Saquon Barkley, which has made a difference? Are they running more misdirections? Are they mixing it up more? I mean, what has allowed them to continue to do it week after week when everybody knows that that's going to be the focus of their offense, if you will, and they've got to stop Saquon?
I think the secret, Patricia, really is the buy-in that Daboll has received from these players. You know, the offensive line has been in shambles for a few years, and now I think from an offensive line standpoint, it's been consistent, right? But the buy-in, what I'm talking about is the toughness aspect of the game right now, because you just don't see it as much. Watch college football; it's just not there as much. But now that the Giants have the buy-in, you have to have the willingness to put on that helmet, to buckle up that chin strap, and get physical. And I know that offensive linemen, they love to do that. They would rather do that than catch a pass rusher and try to protect the quarterback 50 times a game, right? So the willingness is, I think, the secret sauce for the Giants right now. Not every team in the National Football League has that. And so I think the Giants, it's not so much that they're trying to trick everybody. It's put your hand in the ground and get after it physically. And the Giants are certainly one of the top teams in the league right now doing that.
And now a word from our sponsor, Turo. Turo is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the US, UK, Canada, and coming soon, Australia. Whether you're looking for a luxury car for a special event or something you just need to get from point A to point B, or maybe you want to test drive a particular model before making an investment, Turo's wide selection can deliver. And speaking of delivering, many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms and conditions do apply, so forget boring car rentals and find your drive at Turo.com. Hey, Giant fans, thanks for making the LockedOn Giants podcast your first listen. For your next listen, check out Locked On Sports Today. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big games recaps, and the take of the day, all available on this super all-encompassing podcast. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Mike, backing up a little bit, I want to talk about the receiver position, if I will, because we often hear the term premier receiver. What separates a premier receiver from the rest of the pack? And, because you look at the Giants and, you can say that they have guys that maybe fit the mold of premier receivers, but aren't playing like premier receivers, if you will. So Can we just start there on what separates a premier receiver from the rest of the pack?
Yes. I love this question too, by the way. I premier receivers are guys that are never covered, ever. I mean, you could look up and you can see a safety over the top and you can see a corner right in their face, but you know what? They get open. Or they find a way to catch the ball because the quarterback believes that they're going to get open. And then I go back to the catch radius aspect of being a receiver. A premier receiver has an incredible catch radius. And therefore, a quarterback feels so confident throwing the ball in that direction because that player will make a play. I mean, we just saw that with Justin Jefferson not too long ago. We see it from time to time from the elite guys, Devontae Adams and DeAndre Hopkins in today's game. But if we go back a few years, the Randy Mosses of the world, the Jerry Rices, I mean, it was incredible to watch those premier receivers, Michael Irvins, and as they just made the game and they were never covered. They were always a playmaker. And I think it's important to have those guys if you can find them. And certainly there's some teams with that caliber of a player right now in the league, and it's making the league so much more exciting right now.
So the Giants thought they were getting a guy in Kenny Golladay.
Right.
that would fit that bill. Now, Kenny Golladay, to be fair, he's had some injury issues, and I guess you can debate whether or not he's fully healthy or back to what he was prior to the injury.
Right.
But when you look at Kenny Galladay's game, and I know he hasn't been out on the field all that much this year because of that knee injury that he had. When you watch him since he's come to the Giants, what's missing?
That's a great question. I'm not close to the situation, but on the surface, I know the injuries have been tough, but you've also had some changeover. And I think from a Kenny Golladay standpoint, you have to get in favor. Like Coach Daboll is there for a reason. And Golladay was part of that reason. And it's the fact that the Giants were dysfunctional. They weren't winning, right? And so you can't carry over the same type of attitude to a new coaching staff. Because they know for a fact they have some things to fix. They have to receive the buy-in. They have to find out which players that they can proceed with and win a championship with. And from the outside looking in, that's what it feels like. It feels like his resistance to change is really affecting him, in addition to the injuries. I mean, I think a lot of times players lose sight of the mental preparation and the mental approach to the game. What you can do physically, you know what? So can that guy. So can another guy. So can a younger guy, right? A younger, cheaper one. And the front office and coaches, they often think about that. So for Golladay, I mean, he's got to understand that his time is limited in the league. And I know he's a premier player. He probably believes he's that, but you have to start understanding that mental approach and get yourself prepared that way before your physical attributes can help you on the field.
That's a really good point, because, you listen to Kenny Golladay in his pressers. He never says, I'm playing for the team. It's always, I'm playing for my teammates, and not so much the coaches when the question of the coaches comes up. And to me, that seems to indicate that there might be something brewing underneath there, just reading in between the lines here. So that's a really, really good point. Mike, we hear often about player fit for different systems. On the surface, a receiver's job is get open, catch the ball, make the contested catches, pick up the yards after catch. But can you explain, is there indeed a question of fit for a receiver within a specific offense, and what that would be specific to the Giants?
Sure. I think a specific fit for a receiver is, do you have the willingness to block? We were talking about being physical, and if you watch receivers, sometimes they don't want to mix it up. They would rather catch the ball for 5 yards and get up and showboat. But a lot of times you got to put your nose in there and block a safety. And that's an attitude, right? That's a toughness aspect as well. And I think that goes along with fit, because any receiver can fit in a passing offense. Right? You're throwing me the ball, 20 times a game? Okay, I'm good. I can fit in that offense. You're throwing me the ball 15 times a game. I can fit in that offense. But if you're only throwing me the ball 5 to 6 times a game, and we're running it 40 times, are you able to go out there and block for 60 minutes? Do you want to? And so to me, that's more about fit for specific receivers.
So basically an intangible, if you will.
Correct. An intangible. Absolutely.
And it's something that, most receivers nowadays, they do take pride in their blocking, but I think you still have a few guys who are resistant to that. And
yeah, because in college, that's what we see. We see spread offenses all the time. They never huddle up really. And you're looking towards the sideline, you're going at pace. And a lot of times when you're going at pace, you don't really necessarily have to block. You can just get in the way. But with the hash marks closer together in the league, therefore safeties are closer. Right. In college football, the safeties are out there because of the wide hash marks. But in National Football League, we have the closer hash marks, and those safeties are in there. So that means as a receiver, you have to get in there. And the receivers that understand that, they flourish. They get rewarded too. The coaches understand that. Coaches understand, as receivers, you want the football. They will get you the football because they want to see big plays too. But to make the offense work, and if we're going to run the football, you got to get your nose dirty a little bit.
Which some guys, again, don't want to do.
They don't.
All right, Mike, I want to ask you about chemistry between a quarterback and receiver. And I'm thinking specifically of Daniel Jones and Darius Slayton. Both of them were in the same draft class in 2019. Right. Darius Slayton in 2019 had a whale of a year for a 5th round pick. I mean, really surprising. I think he led the team in touchdowns that year. Had some bumps and bruises the next couple of years. Looked like his confidence dropped off a little bit. This year, after starting off basically the forgotten man, the man that everybody thought was going to be cut, including yours truly, which I admit, Darius Slayton has come on and just kind of kept his nose down to the grindstone, done what has been asked of him. When you talk about chemistry between a receiver and a quarterback, can you just delve into that? What it is that makes for a good relationship? Why some quarterbacks just have better luck or better success throwing to a specific guy? What's behind that?
Body language, and the quarterback being able to identify your body language as a wide receiver, and that takes work. It takes time, it takes commitment, it takes that dedication, like you mentioned. And not everything is given to you a lot of times. A lot of people forget that, right? And we got to work on it. So developing, you always have to develop chemistry, but it goes back to body language. And whether or not, it doesn't matter the route that you're running. That quarterback knows your break point. That quarterback knows what you're going to do. And that quarterback can anticipate that, because that's vital for a quarterback to understand, especially in the league, to understand when to throw the football. Do I need to speed up my drop back, or do I need to slow it down? Because I know what you're capable of, and I want you to be able to get open. I want you to work that route, give you time to do that. So that's chemistry. That is special sauce too, to be honest with you. And if Slayton has developed that with Daniel Jones, that's pretty good. That's the buy-in that I'm talking about, but that's also the commitment. But that will elevate Daniel Jones as well, because maybe the next receiver will understand that, and maybe he can convey that type of information to the next receiver or the next player. And but it's vital to have that chemistry. But it all goes back to that quarterback understanding your body language on each and every route.
And now a word from our sponsor, LinkedIn Jobs. Small business owners, if you're looking for the right people to help your small business fire on all cylinders, you need to check out LinkedIn Jobs. Post a free job listing in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job and the purple hashtag hiring to your LinkedIn profile and let everybody know that you are hiring. Over 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn Jobs every week and are just waiting to find opportunities with employers like yours. With LinkedIn Jobs, simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience so that you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. Post your job for free today at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And now a word from our sponsor, BetOnline. BetOnline is your #1 source for football betting info this season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game, both college and NFL. And BetOnline doesn't stop there. It's your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MMA, NHL, NBA, boxing, and golf. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the games start. They only have so many hours they can practice. I mean, because I'm a firm believer that you've got to practice it. You can watch all the film you want, take all the mental reps you want. You ultimately got to get out there and do it. So that said, in addition to watching film, in addition to practicing it, what else can a quarterback and receiver do to really expedite that process?
Well, I tell you what, quarterbacks are making, I think, $20 million a year. Within that salary, there's probably some overtime.
I'm sure.
There's nothing wrong with getting there early and as receiver quarterback going out there on your own time, overtime, if you will, and working on that, developing that, or staying after and developing that, or during the course of practice, whether it's special teams period. A quarterback, hey, I got something I want to work on with you. Come with me, and we'll go over there for 10 minutes and work on something, right? It's just finding the value in your time that you are out there, but then also committing to the fact that, and I'm going to put in some overtime. I'm paid very, very well. But more importantly, I want to win, and I got to create edges for myself. So you want that in a leadership situation, and a quarterback certainly is a leadership situation. The coaches will tell you they don't want to tell you to do that, but if they have to tell you, then they certainly will. But I think it takes each and every player to realize this opportunity, and again, to maximize the time that you have in this league.
And also taking advantage of the off-season opportunities to go down,
Right.
for example, to Duke and to work out there, or wherever they might have their off-site practices and whatnot.
Absolutely.
This next question I have, and I don't mean it to be a trick question. I just want to get your opinion, because I realize maybe different people have different thoughts on this. But what's more important for an offense, do you think, to have a 1,000-yard rusher or a 1,000-yard receiver? And I know you'll probably say both, but if you could pick one or the other, which is more important, do you think, for long-term success over the course of a season?
For the team?
Yes.
Okay. That's a great question. I've never heard that question before. You know what? Because I'm a team guy, an MVP of a national championship team, right? But it's all about the running game. It really is. And it's about keeping the defense off balance, because you can have 1,000-yard receiver and you can throw the ball each and every down, but at some point a defense can make a play on that. But if you can run the football and therefore be tougher than the next team or your opponent, that opens up so much more possibility for you offensively. So I would say that even as a wide receiver, I would say that 1,000-yard running back is more vital to the success of an offense than a 1,000-yard receiver.
And I asked that question, I should have said this before, but Joe Schoen decided not to go out at the trade deadline and pick up, a receiver, despite the fact that they had injuries, despite the fact that, you look at the Giants receiver core, which is not horrible, but they're not, there's really no guy that jumps out at you that I think warrants at this point double coverage. So, that surprised a lot of people. I mean, from a cap perspective, that wasn't a surprise, but still, the Giants at the time, they were 6-2. They were in the thick of they're still in the thick of things. Not having the receiver, that was a big question mark. Did they make an error in not bringing in a guy who, as you said earlier, can constantly get open, can separate, and can make the big plays? People mention Odell Beckham, for example. Did the Giants error in that decision, which I think was forced by finances? But I think if they had their druthers, would they have made the same decision?
Not yet. I would say right now they're good with Saquon, because Saquon can play wide receiver too. Like, if they can get creative that way. But in the years to come, yes, for Giants fans, rest assured they're going to go find an elite player outside as a receiver. They have to. You like you mentioned, you can't have both, but you would like to. And I think if you're building a team, and Shane knows this, I mean, it's imperative to have that elite player on the outside, because of the fact that you're so successful running the ball. And I understood that, and certainly a lot of players understand that. I mean, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, Robert Smith and Randy Moss. I mean, you have to have both in order to win a championship in the league. But if you're choosing first, get the running game squared away, get that premier player back there, especially the way that the league is on the path that the league is on right now, with what they want to do offensively.
So the Giants should be able to get Saquon back. They'll probably franchise him if they don't get a deal done in time for free agency. But let's talk just in general about the draft class and at receivers.
Okay.
I know you're still evaluating individuals, but what can you tell us about what you've seen as far as this receiver class? This is a strong class. Where's the strength of the class that as it's shaping up, and does it fit for maybe what the Giants offense currently is based on, or the next level of that offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you were a GM or a talent evaluator, you're so excited about the wide receiver position in the draft, more so than chasing and spending a lot of money on free agent wide receivers. The wide receivers coming into the league nowadays are farther along than wide receivers have ever been. They're all running 4.3s. They're all 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", and just incredible athletes. Incredible athletes. I think from the wide receiver position, just in general, in college, there's so many guys that are specialized now. Whether it was high school and they're going to wide receiver camps, or whether they get to college and they're developed so well, but the athleticism is off the charts. The speed is off the charts. I've never seen this much talent about to emerge into the National Football League. So that's exciting for everybody. I think we saw the situation or the process accelerate in the National Football League with free agent wide receivers, because they know if I don't strike while the iron's hot right now in terms of getting these contracts and getting these elevated dollar situations, some young kid's going to take my position, and that position is going to get cheaper. And I know for a fact the National Football League, there's 32 GMs out there that would love to see the wide receiver position get cheaper through the draft. So whether the Giants go that route, which I think they will, but be excited about the crop of receivers that are about to enter the league, though, in the next few years.
One final question for you, Mike. We often hear that once a player crosses the dreaded 3.0, that his trajectory is headed downward.
Right.
For a receiver, is that a myth, or is there something to it?
There's something to it. I think for a receiver, if you can still run, then you're going to be fine. And you can stay in this league as long as you want to, as long as you can run. So yeah, I think once you reach 30, it's on you. Can you stay in shape? Can you keep that type of speed? That's a breakaway situation. Can you be dedicated that way? The wear and tear is not like it is for a running back. The wear and tear is not like it is for a linebacker or any other situation that's in the trenches, right? And I think as a sprinter, pretty much on the outside, take care of your body, take care of yourself, and make sure that you maintain that speed. And 30 is just a number at that point. You can get way past 30 as a playmaker in this league.
Assuming also that you've been healthy, especially
Right.
for a receiver, lower body injuries can take their toll on him. But science has come medicine, I should say, has come so far that you see guys bouncing back from ACLs and ankles and groins and hamstrings. I mean, and they look, no worse for the wear.
Right. I was told by a really good receivers coach that I could play this game as long as I want to. It was unfortunate that soon after that, I tore my lateral meniscus. So when you are bone on bone, that pretty much that's it, right?
Yeah.
But if I would have tore a ligament, an ACL or something like that, I could have came back and maybe played for 5, who knows how many more years. But being able to run, staying healthy, is certainly paramount. But if you can avoid those injuries that can slow you down and take away your athleticism, by all means, try to do that. But that is difficult to do as well, though.
Yeah, and it just seems like, and I don't have numbers on it, but it seems like receivers are most susceptible to, especially the soft tissue injuries, the groins, the hamstrings. I guess maybe because of the sudden stop and start motion and that was required of the position.
Sure, but you can get in tip-top shape for that, though. I think if you watch sprinters, for instance, rarely are you seeing those type of situations for sprinters because they take care of the body. They're in shape all the time. They run all the time, and you can condition. I played in the league for a decade, and I never had a pulled hamstring. I'm trying to remember if I had any type of soft tissue. You get a bruised thigh or something like that, but not from a muscle strain, because priding yourself on being in shape and going through all that type of work can help you mitigate that, and can help you certainly avoid those type of injuries. Massage therapy is so key too. Like I had a massage therapist, and he would be able to feel whether or not I had some situations with my muscles, and so therefore I knew, okay, I need to strengthen, I needed to dial it down and rest, I need to ice, I need to do some type of treatment. But all that, I think as a sprinter, as a receiver, that should be part of of your world. That should be part of you as a job and part of your job description, to be honest with you, to make sure that you avoid those injuries, those type of injuries.
And of course, the Giants, who I think are the second most injured team,
Mm.
they'll get there eventually.
Right.
Like, that's been a problem for them, like for the I don't know how many years now in a row. I mean, just to change over in the strength and conditioning staff and the different philosophies. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. But hopefully, the Giants figure it out. They get some consistency and they just get these guys healthy again, because that has been a big problem for New York.
Yeah, and really that goes back to the staff, whether we see dysfunction from the previous coaching staff. I mean, it goes into the training, it goes into the treatments, it goes into everything, every aspect of a franchise that's supposed to be top notch, or certainly at a high enough level to make sure that they can maintain their performance on the field. I mean, it goes to your diet. I mean, everything. When you look at championship teams, it's all because of that. It's all because everybody's on the same page that way for that one common goal right there.
Amazing stuff. I mean, when you think about it, it's just amazing. So,
Right.
Mike, thank you so much for coming on with me. This is very, very informative. A lot of great ground covered. I appreciate you sharing your knowledge with my listening audience, and hopefully maybe we get a chance to talk again down the line.
Patricia, I would like that. This was a joy for me. It was great to catch up with you, and I'm excited about what the Giants, Coach Dable, has established right now. It's about time we see this franchise in a position to do something special, but they are building it the right way. I thought that combo was going to be spectacular, and they hit the ground running. So a lot of exciting times in store for the New York Giants in the future.
Yes, indeed. And we'll be bringing it all to you here on the Locked On Giants podcast. Giant fans, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Locked On Giants. Tomorrow's crossover Thursday, Matt Derry of Locked On Lions will be with me. We'll preview this weekend's Giants-Lions game. Friday, Locked On Giants Live. Keep it here for all things New York Giants. For Mike Pritchard, I'm Patricia Traina. We will see you tomorrow, Giant fans.